want to check for stuff. All right, so whilst we are waiting for the Nmap scan, I just decided to use a different tool to just do a of the machine, the Rust scan. So I'm using Rust scan tag A, and I'm using my IP address, setting its limit to 5,000, and then to scan a range of, I think this thing did even scan all the ports here. Scan a range of 65,535. That is from 1 to, I think, the last port number that is registered. No, not registered, just like the number of ports we can get. All right, so I think we have 53 this time, 22. We're supposed to get another port number, I think port 8080. %. Let me full screen. All right, so whilst we are waiting for the Nmap scan so that we don't waste much time, the web interface is on port 8080, I guess. Yeah. So if I do this, it doesn't really give me anything. So the web interface is actually on port 8080. So let's just check port 8080. So we introduce a colon, and then we bring in our 8080, and then we get the web interface, and then it says that it's giving us a default Apache Tomcat page. And with this type of situations, whenever I see this type of things, what I do is look for some information. And because I've seen a version number, it makes for me sometimes just tells me that since I'm seeing a version, I should just search for this application, and then the version number maybe it's actually vulnerable, or there's like a public exploit available that I can use against this system. But better still, would have to go through the links here, and then just to see what we have on the system. So we have home, which is by default this place. And then the last time in the session, I was talking about the links here at the bottom of the page. The links that will appear at the bottom of the page. So the box is actually in HTTP. Now, if I place my cursor on home, it's telling me tomcat.apache.org, which is going to take me outside of the box. So if I press on documentation, then documentation is still bringing me within the box. Configuration still within, examples within, and then wikis too. I think wikis take me out, mailings take me out. So for me, I don't like to test the ones that will take me out because it's going to take me outside of the box. So I just check what we have in the documentation, and then it has a whole lot here when it comes to documentation. That is, if you want to set up the Apache Tomcat for yourself, you can go through the documentations, and then if you want to check the configurations too, you can also do the same thing. And then this is what we're actually interested in here, the AJP, which is the Apache JSF protocol, which actually makes this system a vulnerable one because it has the ability to read and write to the system. That is, if you are coming in from a different place, that is, if you are trying to access the AJP from the web interface, you might not be able to read certain files. But then using other techniques, you can actually leverage upon the AJP, which is the Apache JSF protocol, to read system files, or even if possible, write onto the Tomcat server. So this is what's going to make our system actually a bit vulnerable. And then by default, this AJP listens on port 809, so 8009, and then it's by default set up on this system. So that is where our vulnerability lies, taking advantage of this one to read a system file. So we go back again, and then examples. You can go to server status, and then it gives us so many stuff to read where we have our username and then a password here. All right, let's see our nmap scan if it's done. Yeah, so our nmap scan is done, and then we are seeing that there is this Apache JSF protocol here, which is version 1.3, and it supports this method. And then, as I was saying, our web service works on port 8080, and that is what we have here. These ones are filtered, so like we are not going to check these ones. And then port 22, which is SSH, is we're not going to start with SSH because we need credentials. So let's start with, we've already started with the 8080. So let's do a search on this protocol here. So this Apache Tomcat, I copy this one, then I paste it into my browser, or search in the URL section, and then I add exploits. Then I hit on enter, waiting to see if I'll get any result. All right, so it gives me Apache Tomcat 9 vulnerabilities, and then we have unveiling the ghost cat, a complete exploitation guide. And then from TryHackMe, it tells us that there is ghost cat here. Even though the box is Tomcat, we are seeing ghost cat here. So at least it is giving me a clue about what this would be. So we can use this. And then this one says the Apache Tomcat AJP ghost cat file read or what include. So we can visit this one and then visit this one as well. Then let's see what they have for us. All right, so these ones are loading, and let's just do a quick directory scan here to see what we have inside. Oh, sorry. What's the IP address? I think it's here. Copy this one, and I paste it here, and I use the this one FUZZ. Then we need a word list, so user share word list. Then let's use the common one. Let's see. All right, so I think I have mistake here. So all right, so -u. So we are using the F5, and we are providing with a URL, which this is our URL, and then we need a word list that is for our fuzzy directories and then file fuzzy. So I hit enter, and then let's wait for this one and go back and check in our browser to see what we had. So yeah. So this is actually doing the same thing we are about to do. So I wouldn't use this resource here. Let's check this one. All right, so this is an Apache Tomcat AJP ghost file read and an inclusion using Metasploit. And then this is the code here. All right. So this is the Metasploit exploit for the AJP inside the Tomcat this server that we have here. Okay, this Apache server that is running the Tomcat version. So since we have this one here, then we can just use Metasploit to get something. Okay, we can just use Metasploit to get something, and then it's saying that it's either a file read or to actually add files to the system. So seeing this, I go back to my terminal. I think I did something wrong here. Yeah, I did something wrong here. That's why I'm not getting anything. I didn't add the port number of the web interface. I think it's supposed to be this way, and then now I think we'll get some results. But since this is running, let's just open a new tab, and then Let me increase this thing and then use Metasploit. So using MSF console. Now let's still go back to our search. And then we have the same AJP file read. We have some remote code execution vulnerabilities here. All right. So I think we'll settle for this one to see how we can exploit the system. Let's see. So now our Metasploit is loaded. So what I normally do is when it comes up like this, I just search for the name. So I can just do a search for Tomcat. So that is some of the syntax in our Metasploit. So you can just use search. So search for Tomcat, and then it gives me these results. Then I just start from the first one. So starting from the top, which is 0, this is an Apache common file upload. Okay. This is an exploit for struct this dev mode. Same stuff here. But they see this one, number 4 says Tomcat Ghost Cat, Apache Tomcat AJP file read. So just like we read from the browser, this is what actually relates to what we read. So at least we can use this one. And in Metasploit, you can either copy this path, or you can just type use plus the number. So in order not to I just don't want to copy it, so I can just do use 4. Then it's using what? That exploit which I just chose. So it's going to use that 4 exploit there. Then, as I've chosen the exploit, that is not all. I need to do some configurations or some settings so that I'll be able to use the exploit. So to see the necessary configurations or the settings I need to do on the system, I'm going to use the keyword or just type in options. And then it brings me the configurations I need. Okay. So now it says that it's going to, apart from the exploit is going to read a file which is web.xml. From here, web-inf and then web.xml. Now, this path, okay, this web.inf here contains some important files in the server. That is mostly configuration files. And then this would also be a configuration file. And the way it's referencing it, let's just copy this one before we even start. And then paste it here and see something. If I paste it here, now it's telling me that it's not able to find the page. It's not able to find the page, which is web.xml. But then from the exploit, I think if we go back to Apache here, the Metasploit stuff, if they would have it actually here, let's see. Most of the times I'm also trying to read the exploits that is online just to understand certain things, but I think this is different from the ones I've been reading, so it's a bit difficult finding the exact location. They have it here. I don't know if this is the same thing in MSF, but then that is what it's trying to do here. Okay, it's going to access this file. The file that is here, that is what it's going to access. And then it says we need an R host. So if you check the requirements here, okay, the requirement, it says it needs, if there is a file name required, yes, but then automatically the file name is set for us. Okay, then it gives you a description and it tells the R host. R host stands for the remote host. What is the remote machine you are trying to get access to, or what is the remote machine you want to run this exploit on? That is R host. And then the remote port. The first time I was running it, I actually used the web interface, And then I had an error because I wasn't reading this part, the description. And the description says that this port should actually be the Apache JSF protocol port. If you come to your Nmap scan, the Apache JSF protocol is running on port 809. That is the port number we are supposed to use instead of using this one. So if I'm to replace it with the web interface port, it's not going to work. Okay. So the only thing we need here, then since it's actually filled for us here, we don't really need, I think there's someone in the chat. Says, good evening. I don't understand what you are talking about. Some more favor. What we are actually doing is what we are doing is there is a machine or there's a platform called TryHackMe, okay, and then this platform provides us with vulnerable machines or machines that have been made to contain certain vulnerabilities, and then as cybersecurity people who are interested in cybersecurity or we are now learning, these are some of the platforms we use to practice or we learn from there, okay, and one of the machines they have is Tom Ghost. And then that is what we are working on. We are seeing how we can actually exploit a vulnerability inside the Tom Ghost application, inside the Tom Ghost server application to access, or let's say get access to the server that is actually hosted on the TryHackMe network. And we don't just start by doing anything, but we have to go through some procedure. The first thing I did was actually to get what we call an IP address, an internet protocol address, that actually identifies the Tom Ghost machine, this machine here on the TryHackMe network. So when you come to TryHackMe, we have to actually start the machine to get an IP address, which is this one. It is 10.10.103.31. So I get the IP address, and then this address will actually reference the Tom Ghost machine on the TryHackMe network. So what I now do is to scan the IP address. Okay, so when I'm scanning the IP address, what do I want? I want to find what are the services or what programs are running on that machine, and then on what port number are they running on. That is what I want to do here. That is why I'm scanning it. So when I scan the machine, I know it's all right, yeah, Samuel, you can talk.
Hello? Yes.
Yeah,
which command did you use to scan the IP address on the terminal?
Okay, so it's here. If I can copy it and then post it in the chat for you. Let's see. It's supposed to be here. And then let me just put it here. All right. All right, so Samuel, are you okay now?
Yes, sir. I'm okay. You can continue.
All right, so yeah. So I just scanned the machine, and now upon scanning the machine, I realized that these are the ports that are open. There is port 22, and the state here says open. The service is SSH, and then the SSH version is still here. And then we get additional information here. Then we find out that there's port 53, I think for DNS is also opened. These ports are filtered ports. Now there is 809, which is the Apache JSF protocol 13 or version 1.3, as you are seeing here. It's also running on the system. And then we also have a web interface, which is the HTTP service, also run on Apache Tomcat version 9.030. Okay, now we can't access this one from that interface, and then this is SSH. You need credentials to get access to the machine through SSH, because SSH is for remote access or remote logins. That is why I first started with the web interface, which is the port 8080. So I first get into the web interface using the port 8080 here. This one. And now I find out that it's running Apache Tomcat 9.0.30. So I just before even going through the other stuffs, I just come here and then search for it to see if there are available exploits here. So I just search for it and then I get some resources here. This one Apache Tomcat AJP Ghostcat, which is the one I've opened here, and it's telling me that there's an exploit that can actually read files or actually add files to the system. And then reading from here, it's an MSF file. This file here or these codes here would actually work in Metasploit, and as it says here. So I didn't download it. I just started my Metasploit from my machine, which is from this side. Okay. So I start Metasploit by running the MSF console command here, and then Metasploit starts. Okay, and the Metasploit has some exploits. So if you launch it, it tells you that there are this number of exploits here, this number of auxiliary modules, these are the number of post modules, these are the number of payloads it has, the encoders, knobs, and then evasions. Okay, so because we are working with Tomcat, one of the syntax in Metasploit is that whenever you want to search for anything, just use the search command plus what you are searching for. So I type search and then Tomcat, and I'm giving this result. So I started from the first one, which is 0. And it tells me that this is an Apache common file upload, which is a denial of service approach, okay, DOS. But then that is not what I want to do here. It even says Apache common file uploads and Apache Tomcat here, DOS. So we don't want a DOS here. This is also a developer mode. That's not what we are interested in. This is a namespace stuff. That's not what we are interested in. Until we get to the fourth one, that actually makes mention of what our AJP, Apache JSF protocol here. Then actually this one meets our requirements. That is why I am using this module, okay, or yeah, this auxiliary module here. So I just type in here that says use for, and automatically it will actually complete it with this for me. Then I said that whenever you choose an auxiliary module or an exploit, you need to do certain configurations or what we call settings to it. You need to apply it with certain steps. Or let's say, is it provided with certain stuff. So to know that, show options, and then it's going to give you some like the module options for you. In it says that there is a name section, okay, so the name column, current settings, the requirements, and then the description. Under file name, under the name, there is file name which says yes, and then it gives you a description. Now, which is that remote machine you are first give it up exploit keyword. But let me just use the run so that it doesn't sound big. Okay, most people prefer to use exploit so that, but then let's just use run. Then we hit enter. Then okay, I don't, it happened so quick. It says running module against this. That's what we get here. When it runs the module, because what's happening is that this module is going to read this file, which is web.xml. Now, the Apache JSF protocol allows us, the version we are running on the system, okay, allows us to read files from the system, but we can't read those files from the web interface here. Okay, but using the exploit, we are able to read this web.xml file. Now, this web.inf would contain some configuration files, and then we want to read only this one. And getting it, okay, you realize that there are certain things we can actually see from this side. That is, if you are interested in reading them, you can read them just to know what it means. And then, yeah. So it says, welcome to GhostCat. This is like by default, like a page that you would actually get whenever you set up the Apache GhostCat. Sorry, Tomcat. Yeah, Tomcat on your system. So just after the welcome to GhostCat now, we see these things here. And these two look like I don't know if you've been doing CTFs, like boot to root CTFs for some time. Immediately you come across these tabs, they look like credentials. So you just copy them. Open your text editor, and let's see if we can increase the size of this thing. Okay, so just copy them and then paste them inside your text editor. Then we come back to our nmap scan. Now that we have set things that look like credentials, then we can come back to look here and say, what can we use the credentials on, or let's say on which port can we use the credentials on, or on which service. We have SSH here, which would actually need credentials to be able to access it. Okay, then let's try our credentials on the SSH. So we want to try the credentials, and from the credentials here, I'm trying to increase this thing. Let's see if I can zoom in. Wow. This not zoom, that's fine. View. And I don't want food. Oh, what the fuck did I press? Alright, so no problem. I would copy it. Now, I think I still need to zoom in. This edit preference, editor font and colors, tab width. Let me copy it here. Let me just copy and paste it here. Paste it. Alright, so this is what I have here. Okay, the first portion here looks like a username, and then the second part looks like a password. So we just try our luck. Okay, so using SSH, the syntax is SSH, the username at the host name. Okay, so something like this, and yeah, you hit on enter, and it's going to ask you for certain stuff, and then you just provide them. When you're done, you add a password to it. Okay, so let's start. So SSH, the username says SKYFUCK at our IP address, which is 10.10.103.31. I think this way, yeah. Then we hit enter. Now SSH wants us to accept some keys. Okay, so we just hit on yes, and it's asking us for a password. And then since we have this copied here, it looks like a password, so I just copy this one and then I paste it here. Now in Linux, most of the times when you copy passwords or when you type passwords, you don't see them appear, but then it's there. Okay, so you just hit on the enter key, and yes, we actually write saying that these are actually credentials, and then yes, they are credentials because we've been able to use those credentials to log into the system, and this was as a result of a particular protocol that is actually vulnerable, and then it's by default running on the system even though we are not using it, and it's running on port 8009. So one advice is if you are using the Apache Tomcat and then you have the Apache JSF protocol on the system, if you realize you are not using it, you can decide to what, um just disable the protocol or add additional security mechanisms so that you don't have this vulnerability, or better still, just update your system to the current version. That is, if this is not the current version, you update to the current version to get this problem solved, else people would be able to read configuration files from your system. And another one too is if you look in our Metasploit result, there are credentials here. You should just try and avoid adding sensitive stuff into your applications. If you keep doing them, that is when people will get access to them and would be able to use them against yourself. Okay, so just don't add sensitive stuff or like credentials into configuration files, or just don't keep them anywhere. Get them in a safe place. That is, if you want to keep them on the system, get them in a safe place, and then yeah, you can continue from there. I know at this point, if you have any questions, you can ask. Since we've been able to get just the first, or let's say initial foothold on the system, if you have any question, you can ask, and then let's see how we can help you. Any question? All right, Samuel.
Yes, sir. Can you go back to your previous screen? When you wrote that password,
Where? This one.
yes. Yes. Where did you get the password from?
It's part of whatever Metasploit came with. So if you check here, you realize it's part. This is the second portion.
Okay. Can you scroll up?
Okay.
Okay. Okay, sir. Thank you.
All right. So it's like let's say a system administrator was setting up the that Tomcat server, and then inside the configuration file, that is the first page, he decided to store some credentials there. That is inside the web, this file here, the web.xml. He decided to store some credentials there, and that is what we've retrieved here, and we've been able to use it to log into the system here. Are you okay now?
Yes.
All right. Any other question? Any other question?
Jeffrey, please check the chat. There's a question there.
Oh, okay. Let me check in the chat. What's in call message? Which command did you use to extract the credentials? Bentley. Not actually like an extraction of credentials, but we read a file which is part of the configuration, like the inside one of the configuration directories from the Tomcat system, which is the web.xml. And then I don't know what happened, but someone decided to store some credentials in there. So it wasn't like we were trying to extract some credentials, but we were just reading a file, and then we had credentials in the file. So if this didn't work, we would have to search for what are some of the files we can get inside the Apache Tomcat configurations for, like, or what are some of the configuration files or the important files we can get from the or let's say we can get inside the Tomcat service. Okay, and then if we get those files, then we will just be switching them here until we are able to read a file that contains some information that we can use. Okay, and then by this one, just by reading just the first file, someone decided to store some credentials here. Okay, and that is where we just thank God and then we continue. So it wasn't like we knew that this was there somewhere. Okay, we were just trying to read files, and then just reading the first file, we found that. Any other question?
No.
Oh, okay. So then I would continue.
Wait, sorry, sir.
Right.
Yes. Can you like just a quick summary of everything we just did now?
A quick story of everything we just did. Okay.
A quick summary,
Okay, so like a
yes.
summary. So we get an IP address of a system, and then we scanned the IP address using the Nmap scanner to find out the services and then the ports that are actually open on the system. Then we find out that there is an AJP service that is also running on the system on port 809, and there's also a web service also running on the system that is running on port 8080. We first access the system through the web interface, and then we find out that the version, it has its version at the top here. Then we copy the name and then the version, search if there are publicly available exploits on it, and then lo and behold, we get one that is a Metasploit exploit or a Metasploit exploit. We come to read about it here from exploit DB. Then since we already have Metasploit on our system, we don't download the exploit from exploit DB. We just go back to our terminal and launch Metasploit using the MSF console command here. Then as it's launched, we search for the name, which is Tomcat. We search for Tomcat, and then it gives us options, auxiliaries, exploits, and then reading through the exploit, or let's say the modules it gives to us. On number 4, we realize that there is a module here that actually has something to do with what we are interested in, or let's say what we're working with, because we realize we are working with Tomcat, and then it has Tomcat here. We saw AJP, we are seeing AJP here. It says file read, and from what we also saw in the web interface too, or let's say when we search for the exploit, it was a file read, and it's also an Apache server. So like here, we decided to use 4. So we choose 4 here, so we use the 4, and then it activates to like using 4 for us here. To see the options we need to fill in, we type in the command options, and now we are given these options we need to fill. Then from the file name, it's telling us that if we are to fill in these options, the module is going to read this file, which is web.xml, from the root web-inf web.xml. That is what it's going to do, and it's also required. Then it asks us, we see that there's our host, which is the remote host, and it says it's also required, but then it's not filled, which means we need to fill it. And then it's telling us that the default port for the AJP, which is the Apache JSF protocol, is already set for us on 809, but then it's also required. So all we need to do is just set the remote host, and we set that by using this command, set our host, and then we type in the remote host IP address. When we are done, we just use the options command again to check if whatever we did was successful. And yes, it was successful. It actually updated the remote host and then kept in the IP address for us. Then when we are done, we can either use the run command or exploit. So immediately we hit on run, it actually yes executed the module against the target IP address and read that file for us, this web.xml file for us. And we were reading through, and as we got to the bottom here, we realized there are certain things here that look like credentials. Copied the credentials, went onto a different terminal, used the credentials, which is this one as the username and this as the password, tried logging in through SSH, and now we successfully logged into the system using whatever we found from the web.xml file using the Metasploit module. Is that okay?
Yes, sir.
All right. So now we are in the system as this user here, and if it's the CTF based, we just mostly we are looking for the flag. So first of all, whenever I get access into a box like this, I try to see what are the things we have here. And now we see tryhackme.asc.profile or credentials. Now, because we are looking for flags, you don't see anything here. So now you start asking yourself, so where is the flag? So what I just do is try to also repeat the same command, but list whatever we have inside the home directory, because anytime there is an addition, or let's say there's another user, that user would be found inside the home directory. So I just list everything inside the home directory, and I realize there's a user called Merlin here. Okay, so if there's a second user and I don't have the flag in this user, which is the user I'm currently logged in, then it's definitely going to be inside Merlin, right? So I look at the permissions set on Merlin, and I realize that I can read files from Merlin, okay, based on the R here. Now I'm not using this part because the D here stands for directory, okay, so like it means it's a directory. The first RWX is for the owner of the whatever you are seeing here, whether it's a file or folder. The first part here stands for the owner or is for the owner. It means that the owner of this folder has read, write, and execute permissions on it. Then the second part here stands for the group that person belongs to. Okay, so that it means that the group also has read and execute permissions. And then the last portion here belongs to like any other body, or let's say any other person on the system. And is it I'm not the Merlin user. And looking at this side, okay, this side represents the groups that Merlin belongs to. Or better still, if you don't know the groups that Merlin belongs to, you can use the command groups and then just type his name. I think it's Merlin like this. You hit enter and you realize Merlin belongs to the Merlin group, ADM, CD-ROM, DIP, and then all these groups. He belongs to all these groups. Okay. Now, since we've checked for Merlin, let's see what group our current user belongs to. He belongs to only one group, which means he can't access most of the things that would be set to the group. But because there is something set for any other user on the system, then we can access stuff from the Merlin user. So we can just change our directory using the cd command and then our /home. Then since there is Merlin inside the home, we just type Merlin. So now we change our directory to the Merlin users directory, then we do ls-al. Then we are inside the Merlin's directory, and now we can see that there's a user.txt here. So if you're interested, you can cut this file, read the flags, and then submit it. But mostly when I see stuff like this, like sudo as admin successful, because it's mostly like a CTF based stuff. So we want to, after we get into the system with this user, or let's say a low privilege user, we are trying to escalate our privileges to become the root user or the user with the top priority or the top privileges. So yeah. But once I see sudo as admin successfully, then what comes into mind is, then I have to be this user. I have to be this user, which is Merlin. But how do I become Merlin? Because we already know that to become a particular user, you need the user's name and then the password. But now I only have the username for the current user we are now, but I don't have, and then his password. I don't have that for Merlin. Okay, so then we have to escalate our privileges horizontally. That is, move from one user to another user. Merlin. So how then do we do that? We can use a resource online, which is Siren Security. Siren Security, and then check for the Linux privilege escalate, be able to that is if you know what you are looking for, or then if you go through it well and then understand most of the steps, you will be able to get your them. Anytime you run them, they will show up. Okay, so most of them are default stuff that are supposed to be running. So you might not get into the directories that are mostly writable, or that can be writable by anyone. So I first check into my temp directory, or the temporary directory. So I list everything inside the temp directory or the temp folder, and I find these things here. All right, so nothing stands out here. So let's check into the OPT directory. Now, OPT is where mostly we install optional, or we keep our optional program files. Okay, so now inside OPT there is Tomcat and then there is Zimbra. I think Zimbra is a mail service, and then Tomcat is just what we are using here. And it says it's owned by Roots and it's in the Tomcat group, which means we can't even access anything from this side. Even though we have this read and write permission set on it. If we get inside, we might not be able to do anything inside that directory. So just to cut our time short, we are not going to go through this place, because looking at the permission set, we will not be tackling these ones. Now let's do another one here for the var directory. Now inside the var folder we find backups. There is mail, there is another OPT, and then there is spool, there is temp. Yep. So mostly the ones I like to check is the backup, the mail, the OPT, and then sometimes this one. So let's check the backups. And then there is the APT extended states one, and then it's zipped. All right, so let's check the mail. There is no mail. Let's check spool. As we inside spool, there is a cron job here, or there's a cron folder. So let's check cron. and then it says there's cron tabs, which is a directory. Now, when I saw this one the first time, it made me to check if there are cron jobs. Now, cron jobs are like task schedulers. Okay, you schedule a task to occur whenever you are not around. So instead of having to be on your machine almost all the time to be doing certain things, you don't do that. You just schedule the tasks using what we call the cron jobs. Okay, so in Windows, they are called task schedulers here. You schedule them for certain time or like for some time. So when the time when it gets to that time, automatically it's being executed and then those things happen. So most of the times they use them to run like updates and then backups and stuff. So I want the etc directory and there's a cron tab. I think it's this one. Yep. And then looking here, there is a cron job that is running as root. And what it does is it changes directory to the root folder. Inside the root folder, I think there is another folder called ufw, and it runs bash ufw.sh, which means that there is actually a script that is ufw.sh inside the ufw folder. So after some time, I think I don't know how to. Let's see how would you interpret this? Is how the interpret this is where the interpretation is done. This section. Okay, from this side, that is where it will run after some time. It will change the directory into the root user, and then inside the root user, inside the root folder, there is ufw, and then run this command. Okay, it's what I normally think about with cron jobs is that when I see this one, like, okay, can we get access to maybe this or this? And then the first time I was doing it, I was like, nah, for me, I will not be able to get access to the ufw.sh because it's inside the root folder. Okay, so I might not be able to get access to that cron job. But what is actually executing or what is actually doing that? Okay, yeah. So still young by then, so I didn't try anything like that. But in the home directory of Skyfac here, we found certain things. I don't know if you saw it, but the steps you would have to go through are a bit lengthy. That is, if you are doing stuff manually, you'd have to go through so many steps. Okay, yeah. We found certain things here. Okay, I think because I didn't do that, so it's this way hyphen al. Yeah, this one's there is credential.pgp, which like by the name of the file it says credential.pgp, so definitely there are going to be credentials here. That is what we are thinking of. Okay, yeah. So let's see what we can do. PGP. Let's just take it. So what I normally do when I find these things on boxes is I try to transfer them to my local machine. Okay, and then because most of the time these machines wouldn't contain some of the tools you can use to work on the files here, so I just try to like copy them onto my local machine. So since I've already logged in as SSH, let me just check for Python. So I check for Python using. So if anytime you want to check for a service, you can use the which command. So I check for Python. There's no Python. I check for Python 3, and it gives me the path. Okay, so like it means that there's Python 3 inside. So what I'll do is just set up a simple Python 3 server. So Python 3, use the -m http.server, and then just leave it like that to use the default port, and then it's set up a Python 3 server for me on the system. So now I can download these files onto my system. So I actually need this one. Okay, let's do it. So let's open a different tab, and then all right. So to download stuff, there are various ways you can use to download. I like to use the wget. So wget, you need to specify the URL. Now that URL is going to be our IP address of the machine. IP encryption. It uses the asymmetric encryption method where bit key to decrypt it. And looking at this, what we have here is already encrypted. Like if I'm to do the cut, let's see if we can read it like that. If I do the cut, it's encrypted. It's encrypted, and then we can't get the content of the file. So we need to actually decrypt it before we can now get the content of the file. But so now, if it's from the system and it's now with us, and it has been encrypted by a public key, that means we need a private key to actually decrypt it. We need a private key to decrypt it. That is based on the asymmetric encryption standard here. Continue. So to decrypt this one, there is a tool called a GPG. Okay. GPG, which can also be used to decrypt the PGP stuff. Okay. So if I run the GPG-H thing that is decrypted, but we need a particular key, which is the private key, or of course I think it's the private.asc. I think ASC looks like ascending. Okay, yeah. So let's try getting that one too. So let's try getting it. So we'll try hack me.asc. I guess it's correct. All right, so 200. Now let's see what this file 2 is also. So file, try hack. And it said a credential.pgp, whatever is inside has been encrypted with a public key. That is because it's using the asymmetric encryption key and a public key. So it has been encrypted with a public key, and then we need to decrypt it. So that means we need the corresponding private key decrypt it, and then the private the try hack me file, and it's actually the private key. So like that is how it looks like here. Now we have these two files on our local machine here. Okay, we have these two files on our local machine. Now, still, how do we decrypt them? How do we decrypt them? How then do we key or what? I think we can search for how to decrypt, even if it's not decrypting or like I said, cracking or getting the passphrase. Cracking PGP private key. Let's see. Let's add passphrase to it. Is it being correct? All right, so we would find out a bit easier. What happens is there is a tool called John, so we can use John, okay, to convert, or we can convert this private key into a John format, and then we use John to crack it. Okay, so let me go and look for John. So I expand this one. At least if you don't understand anything, you can ask. So if you have a question. If you have a question, please ask. Please, if you have a question, you can ask. All right. So with this, we have the two John, okay, like what I just opened. And since it's PGP, John has so many modules here. For instance, it has this PGP. So it's PGP to John. Is it PGP to John or something? If it's not PGP, let's see GPG. Okay, GPG to John. Then I think we can add our try hack me file and let's see what happens. All right, so that is it. It's actually GPG to John. And then, yeah, we can add the try hack me. Now let's capture this into a file. Okay, so let's make this one passphrase.txt. All right, so let's see. All right, so it's there. So now we've been able to convert the ASC or the private key into a format that the John would be able to read it, or using like GPG stuff. So like GPG to John, so we convert from whatever format it is to like a John format. Then now we can use the John tool. So we use John plus the file name, which is passphrase. Then we want to crack the passphrase, right? So we provide it with a word list that we'd want to use to crack the passphrase with. So we go to user. Let's increase this a bit. User share word list. Then let's use rocku.txt. Then we hit enter. Now it's a bit easier with this machine, so it was just quick. And then we have a username Alexandru, and then something like a password that says try hack me, or try hack me being the username and then Alexandru being the password. But we have these two stuff, okay, so like we can try any of them and then see. Okay, so let's go back to our terminal here and let's try importing the private key again. So it asks for the password or the passphrase. The first one was try, the other one was try hack me, and it says it's wrong. So let's use the Alexandru, Alexandru. Guess it's that one. All right, so I think this one worked. Now it says secret key imported. Now we've been able to import the secret key, and then nothing changed. Total processes 2 unchained, 1 secret key read, secret keys imported 1. So now we've been able to import our private key. So now this time, whenever we run this decrypt function, okay, it will know where to find our private key and then use it to decrypt our message for us. So it's still asking us for the passphrase, and then since Alexandru worked, you can use Andrew, and let's see. Yes, and then we're able to decrypt the message. Now decrypting the message, we find this string. Okay, now from the SSH place, let's just close this. Now listing the items inside the home directory. There is Merlin and there is the second user here. Decrypting the credentials, there is Merlin and there is this. Now from what I said earlier, again, I'm thinking these are credentials. So copy these ones. Then I look for my text editor. Then I just paste them. Now what I'll do next is just try to change into the Merlin user with that password. Okay, so I do SU for switch user, and then Merlin. I hit enter. It'll ask for Merlin's password. I come back here, copy all this, then I paste it inside here. Then I hit enter. And yeah, we are able to get access to the mailing user this time because we have his password. Okay, so let's change into the mailing users directory. Now we are inside mailing. So let's list all the items inside mailing. And like I was saying, if you are interested in the flag, you can cut this one and then submit it. Okay. But this was what caught my eye. Sudo as admin successfully. Now, to sudo as admin successfully, what I get from this is that I can run sudo and then I can get the admin privileges if I'm this mailing user. And then another thing that comes into mind is to check if a person can run sudo privileges, you need a person's password. And now we have mailing's password. So I just quickly check if mailing can run sudo privileges by typing in sudo-l. Okay, then I hit enter. Then it gives me this. Okay. Now it says that user mailing may run the following commands on the Ubuntu machine. Okay. Now it's saying root no password. Again, I'm thinking this is the user, this is the group, and then with no password. But this user mailing can run this binary, which is the zip binary, without any password. And that's what I'm thinking this one is like here. I think with the user and then the group here. So you can run this binary without a password. Anytime we see binaries, or anytime I see binaries, unless it's a different file, the best source I go to is using GTFO bins. GTFO bins. So I go to GTFO bins and then search for zip. So I just come to GTFO bins. GTFO bins. Then I search for, this is shell, this is fari, this is sudo, this is limited SUID. It's sudo we are interested in, so I click on it. Then it brings me to the sudo part. So now this is what we get. Can I zoom in? Let's see. Alright. Alright, so it's telling us that this is what we can do to get root. So what it's doing is first of all, it's creating what we call like a variable, and then inside that variable, it's creating a temporary directory. I think with a random name, I'm sure, yeah. So it's creating a temporary directory or a temporary folder inside wherever we are now with a random name. Then it will run sudo with the binary. Since we can run sudo with that binary, it is going to run sudo with the binary on the temporary directory we've created. And it's trying to zip the etc host file into this directory. And it's going to, I think here, execute sh, which is like, which is a shell. It's going to execute the sh here. And then we are going to see the hashtag sign here. When it's done, it will remove the temporary file that was created for us. So I guess like that is an explanation to what this is doing. Maybe, yeah, I'm sure that's what's happening. So tf, a variable name, equal to whatever happens here, which is creating. So let's try them one after the other. So let's just do this. So I copy this, come here, not here, but here, and let's do a paste here. I hit enter. Now let's list the items here and see if there is something created. Let's see, is it TF? Okay, it's actually TF, so it's going to be inside TF. It's not going to display here. I'm not sure it's going to display here because it's storing it inside TF. But let's see something. If it's going to be found here. Nope. But it's actually doing it. It's creating a temporary directory and then storing it inside a TF variable. So we go back to our browser again. Then we copy this session here, where we actually executing the binary, and then we paste it. Then we hit enter. So now it says it's been able to add the etc host, and then it's doing this and executing the sh command, and it's showing us the hashtag. So that is what we are seeing here. It doesn't really tell us anything. So let me hit enter. It says not found. I hit enter again. If I do ID, then it's telling me that I'm root. Then before we even go, the last one says when we are done, let's all right, let me see something. So can I do this dollar $TF? Oh, it's not there. Oh, that's not dollar. Can I do echo dollar? Is it shift 4? Yeah, shift 4 TF. Okay, it's not there. But it says let's remove this one before anything else happens. So let's paste this and remove it, and it says try blah 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 something. Yeah. So wait to didn't I copy something? I think that's all what they are doing here. But then if I type ID, who am I? And then host oh, it's host name and then uname. All right, yeah. So we've been able to gain root of the system, and then we can also cd to the root directory and then list all the items inside the root directory. And then if you're interested in cutting the root flag, you can cut it. But this is the directory that the cron job we found was trying to get into. So if I list all the items inside the UFW, you're going to find that script inside. Okay. And then if I'm to cut UFW.sh, what's that? Okay, sure. Cut UFW.sh. I guess it's this way. Yeah. So that's what's inside. Okay. But then we've been able to root GhostCat because we first found out that it has this Apache JServe protocol, which is running on the default port 809, which also has this ability to give you the read privileges so that you can read files. That is, if you are coming from a different point that is not the web interface, you can read some files, and then we're able to use it to read the web.xml. And someone decided to store some credentials inside the web.xml file. So we found out those credentials, used them to log into the system as a particular user. We got access into the user, we got access into the system with that user. And in the users directory, we found out that there were two files, credentials.pgp and then triacme.asc. PGP is using an asymmetric encryption approach. That means we need two keys. We need a public key and then a private key. Since the message was actually .pgp, we realized that that credential is actually the encrypted text. and it's going to be encrypted using the public key. So we needed a private key. Checking the properties of the tryhackme.asc, we realized that it's actually a private key, and we had to use GPG to import the private key. But importing it, we realized that the private key was password protected, so we had to crack the passphrase, or we have to crack it and then get the passphrase out of it. So we use a tool called a GPG to private key into a format that John would understand, and then use that format with the John command and then crack it. Upon cracking it, we found out that there were, or let's say we found the passphrase that is Andrew. Sorry, Alexandru. And then we were able to use the Alexandru passphrase to import the private key onto the GPG, and then we're able to now use the GPG to decrypt the encrypted message, found the user's mailing and then his username and password. In his home directory, there was this hidden file that says sudo as admin successfully, and then because of that, the zip binary on GTFO beans, and then GTFO beans had a step-by-step way of making us get that, and we were able to just do that without any problem, and then we were able to root the ghost cat box, and now that is it. I'm done. Any question? Any question? I think there is a question here. Jeffrey. Okay, sure. All right, any question? Any question? Any question? Any suggestion? Any question or any suggestion?
Senior,
Yeah.
I guess you have done video on it.
Yeah, mostly it's recorded, so I think the recordings will be posted in the Discord channel, and then I don't know if you're not on the Discord channel, I'll have to send it to you. All right, no problem. Any other?
Jeffrey, thanks for holding the session for us today and finally can talk. So, yeah,
Okay,
thanks
sure.
for sharing out today and really appreciate your efforts. Please, if you have any question for Jeffrey, feel free to ask the question as is here at the time. Well, if you have any questions, thanks for coming for today's session. We hope to see you in our next session on next week, Wednesday. And yeah, so that will be for tonight. Good night, everyone.
All right, good night. Oh, nice. And then I'd have to, where am I supposed to leave from this side? It's here, and out. All right, so I'm leaving.